Welcome, everybody. We've got Dave with Keeping Current Matters. Dave, I call him Dave. David, Dave. Sorry, man.
You can say either one. So,
Everybody knows you at this point.
well,
I had a few people.
I've been called a lot worse. So
That's funny, man.
uh,
I had
no,
a few
excited to
people
be on
text
with you.
me.
Thanks for hosting this. It's good to be back together. We haven't seen each other in a while.
Yeah, dude, it's been a while, man. I'm
Yeah,
glad
yeah.
we're finally doing this. We're finally working closer together. So we're going to start seeing a lot more of Dave, a lot more of Keeping Current Matters. And you'll start seeing a lot more content being published that I think is important because the world that we live in, I feel got crazier than last year, dude. It's
A
just
little
like
bit.
I didn't think it could get crazier, but it got crazier.
Right. Yeah. I think we live in a time right now where, it's interesting. The bond market a couple of weeks ago was the steepest move since I believe, 3 or 4 decades. I mean, we're seeing some swings right now in what's happening that normally would take 6 or 8 months. Are happening in a 24-hour cycle. You know what I mean, with the uncertainty and things like that. So yeah, it is a time where there's a fair amount going on.
There is, man. So what's this real estate crisis that nobody's talking about or that you think we should be paying attention to?
Yeah, I think our team's been hard at work and sort of working on a new resource that I'll tell you about that kind of addresses the crisis. And I see, just want to call out somebody was saying, hey, let us know where you're watching from in the comments. See, LA, Houston. I'll actually be in Houston in 2 weeks, Terry, but at an event that is being put on. I think Tom Ferry is doing it, but Vienna, Virginia. Richard, I'm right
Is
down
that
the.
down the street from you, Dave?
Yeah, we're in
Vienna,
Richmond,
Virginia.
Virginia, so not too far from Washington, Vienna. A couple people there. So good to see folks from all over the country joining Baltimore, Maryland. So Cincinnati.
I like how Chris said it, Dave. Chris
Yeah,
says
yeah, yeah.
Kansas City, home to
Exactly.
the Super. Thank you for letting us know about the teams there. Appreciate it. I love that.
That is good. That is good. Yeah, yeah. So folks from all over watching. So grateful for that. So a couple things that I'll say first, Tristan, and maybe we can just, you and I know each other so well. Maybe we just kind of have a conversation as we go throughout today. But I thought, I would share a couple of things. You know me, and which, by the way, I can't share anything if you'll give me access to be able to
John,
share.
could you please give Dave access to share the screen?
So me, Tristan. I can't share something without bringing up some slides and some KCM graphics.
That's what we
Oftentimes,
all wait for, though. Come on.
exactly, a picture's worth 1,000 words, and our team's put together some pretty amazing things. But let's kind of maybe hop into this, and I'll share a couple of things that I'll tell you. Probably people watching today know this, and I will even Tristan, I'll give you all these slides, we can get them out to everybody. But a couple of
Perfect.
things that are shocking right now in our business that I would say, and I think it's important that we remember these things because I think they lead into sort of the crisis that is at hand in our business. And this is the first one. I think most people in our business probably know some form or fashion of this, but 83% of mortgages right now, Tristan, are below 6%, right? Most people I think know that or have seen maybe something on Facebook or a post about it, but that
Mhm.
number is shocking. It's shocking. 83% of mortgages start with a 5 or lower. I literally this morning got I got a text. I'm trying to pull it up real quick from somebody that says, I'm not going to say their name because you and I both know them, and
Okay.
we'll remove the names to protect the guilty. You know what I mean? It's this right here. I don't know if you can see it on
Hold
here.
on. Let me stop
It
sharing
says,
your screen. I want to see this. Give me a second. Dave's
yeah, it says,
screens.
man says we will have the biggest crash in real estate in 2025. Do you see it there?
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I see it. I see
That
it.
if you can read
That's
it
a
there.
really good headline, dude. Man says.
Right. But if we go back to kind of that graphic, in the point of the article was mortgage rates are going to drop. Everybody's going to put their home on the market. You're going to have a supply and demand imbalance. Prices are going to crash, and that's going to be this market.
Got it.
Well, you have to understand a couple of things about that. One, nobody's calling for mortgage rates to dip into these numbers.
Yeah.
And there's only two scenarios that I can think of that would cause that. One is a pandemic. Let's hope that doesn't happen. And the other is probably a war. Let's hope neither one of those happen. But even if it did, Tristan, if you go back to what folks that measure the available inventory in this country and homes in this country, they would say we're about 2 to 3 million undersupplied. So even if that did happen, those homes would be gobbled up by people that want to buy right now.
Yeah, I see that.
Affordability is a challenge, but so shocking things that you have to have, sort of at command in our business. The other shocking one is the massive amount of equity that Americans are sitting on. 40% of homes in this country are owned free and clear. And again, I think most people know that. But 2/3 of homes either have 50% of equity, 50% equity, they're considered equity rich, or they're owned free and clear. So those cause challenges in our business, right? The folks that have a great mortgage rate, they're like, we're not going anywhere ever, right? Now, I don't believe that to be true personally, but it does cause somebody to, evaluate what they're going to do. With probably a more strict lens. So what's the crisis? Here's the crisis. Go ahead.
Well, because this is such a great opportunity for all of us to use these slides in some way to educate the audience that we're trying to attract or that we want to connect with. If you could go back to the previous one really quick. Everyone, if you could just do yourself a favor, snapshot this, and then let me know really quick in the comments, do you currently have Keeping Current Matters? Because if you do, don't snapshot it, it's there. If you don't, snapshot it, put it on your phone, and this is what I would do. David, I would grab this as a snapshot. I would put it as a green screen behind me, and I would say something like, can you believe this? Who would have thought that
Yeah.
the majority of mortgages are under 6%? And then give your narrative, give your opinion, because the reason people tune in to you is for your opinion. That's what sets you apart from everybody else, your opinion on what's
Completely.
happening now.
Right. In our opinion, look, my opinion is not worth more than yours or anybody else on the call, but we should understand that makes our housing market in the US very, very strong.
Yep.
That's the point. So when somebody says everybody's gonna get foreclosed on, or prices are gonna fall, or this is gonna happen, based on what? Based on what?
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, the 40% of the people in this country aren't gonna get foreclosed on that don't have a mortgage. I can tell you that, and so having a command of the facts. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. Is this our team found this? You may have seen it. I don't know if folks on the call have seen it. Repeat business in real estate has come down dramatically. So this is a study that Zillow did, and it's the percentage of sellers that use the same agent again to list their house. So you go back to 2022, 15%, not blowing the doors off by any stretch of the imagination. 23, it's 11. Most recently, it's 8%. It's
Dude, hold on.
dropped in half in the last couple of years.
It's funny that to me, okay, and I'm not saying anything against or for Zillow,
Yeah.
but it's funny that Zillow was the one that made the survey because
Right. Yeah.
they're the
Yeah.
ones who've interrupted this whole world, and they've made home search synonymous with Zillow, right?
No
Of course.
doubt. Right. But think about this. Think about consumers today. We've moved from sort of this speed market, which is get the house on the market at any cost. Let's do it quickly, to a skill-based market, right? Are you
Yeah.
informed? Do you have all of that? And it shows up. That's the ultimate crisis that we face. So what does that mean?
Mm,
That means that the reality, like we could do a quick exercise right now, and I'll show like what kind of phone do you have, Tristan? Do you have an iPhone?
iPhone. Yeah.
Okay,
Is
pull
there
your
another
iPhone out
type,
real quick.
Dave? Hold on. Is there another type of phone?
Yeah, well, I didn't know. Pull your iPhone out real quick and answer me this question. How many people do you have as far as contacts?
Okay. Phone, contacts. Let me scroll down. Looks like I have press that little button.
You probably have a lot more than most.
Actually, you'd be surprised. I don't. 4,600.
That's a
4669.
that's a fair amount. Okay. So statistically, if that's your database, let's say,
Okay.
statistically, 5% of those people will move, will buy a home, will sell a home in a year. Statistically, that's
Damn.
230 in your phone. Okay. Now,
That's a
here's
great
the
stat.
interesting thing. Only if you follow this math, only 8% of sellers in your database will work with you again. That's 18. If you follow that, what we just did, 18 people will work with you again.
And why
So,
is that?
what's that?
And why is that?
I think there are a lot of reasons for it. I think one of the big sort of one of the big issues in the world is the speed market that we've been in to a skills based market. But I think the other reason is, are you staying in touch with those that know you, like you, trust you, that are in your database? Are they just in there, right? And I think there are a lot of things in this market that sort of you know lend to why is that happening? Why are folks maybe not using the same agent? Even people watching today, I don't know if you're looking at the comments. I haven't looked at the comments. I can pull it up here. Why do they think that's happening?
That's a
Why
good
do you
question.
think, Tristan?
Everybody jump in. Dude, I think we live in a world that's dominated by a lot more distractions that we ever had than when we started in real estate, right? The world that we live in now is very digital. And so we get notifications from anything happening at one point. If we showed interest at one point for something, it's gonna show up on our feed. And
Yeah,
so
yeah,
now the one that makes the most noise consistently shows up. And whether it's a good or a bad thing, and that's where we have to start curating what we listen to, right? So
yeah. The
I think,
loudest voices oftentimes get the most attention. It's like the YouTube video that I shared with you a minute ago.
yeah, it's a
Not
good
not
point.
accurate, but they get the most attention.
You brought up Zillow in the previous survey, and Rich Barton,
Yeah,
who co-created Zillow, um, just did a podcast with Tim Ferriss
yeah,
last week.
yeah,
Just came out,
yeah.
and there was a section from it. Since you brought it up, I wanted to share with you kind of same thoughts along the lines of this. There's a section in it, and I'll highlight it and I'll put it in here for everybody to read. These are his words. He says, look, if you have an overdependence on a supply of customers, you're strategically exposed for obvious reasons. If you have an overdependency on any supplier, you're strategically exposed. And so, Business Strategy 101 says diversify your sources of customers and your sources of supply so that nobody gets too much leverage of you. He's referring
Yeah.
to how people would go to Google, so they had to figure out a solution. But if you read that, it feels like that's exactly what they did to the industry, specifically Zillow Flex agents. They have an over dependency on Zillow leads, right?
Mm.
And then he goes on and says the stuff here and how they broke through all of that. I'm going to put this in here. So my answer
Yeah, yeah.
is this: there's too many eyeballs not on the stuff that you're doing, and you need to show up more with graphics like Dave just showed in the background, email, social media, in person, talking to people, newsletters, and it has to be more of you with value-driven content that explains the world that we're in, and we're not doing it
Totally.
enough.
Well, I would even take a step back. I was thinking just a minute ago, the last time you and I saw each other, we were in the same room together, was
Yeah,
at Daryl Turner's event. Remember that?
I do,
In
dude. I do remember
Reno.
that.
Um, and we were together over the last several weeks, 7, 8 weeks. I've had a chance to be out on the road with a lot of different things, different events, and I started to notice something. You walk into a room today, and even on this group right here, there are people in our business right now that would say, David, I am winning. And there would be people who say, I don't feel like I'm winning. I'm losing in
Yep.
business right
I
in
hear
real
that.
estate. Listen, we're in a hard market and a hard business right now. Let's just, kind of state the obvious in that. But here's
Yep.
what I noticed in that. The agents that would say that I'm winning are
Hmm.
exactly what you just said. They are confident and they are in control. Like you even take last year in the commission lawsuit, who responded to that confidently of here's my value, here's what I charge, here's how we navigate the process. They won throughout that, right? The agent that
Yeah.
maybe was kind of like, I'm not sure what my broker is going to say, or I'm not sure what we're doing here, had challenges in that. So confidence and control in this
Mm.
market is a differentiator. I'm just stating what I observe
Yeah.
in interacting with agents. And the thing that leads to that confidence is exactly what you said. They're
Mm.
informed,
Good point, man.
right? They ultimately are informed in what's happening in the market. So let's kind of play this out. You're confident in control, or you're not, because you have to have both, right? And I'm going to show you a way in just a minute. It's what we've done for the last 17 years here at Keeping Current Matters. A question comes up, and I'm going to answer it a number of different ways. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. I'm just as scared as you are about this economy. I don't
Hmm.
know. Or would you mind if I shared something with you? Would you mind if I showed you exactly what's happening in this market? And I'll tell you, that is where they're taking ground, is by specifically taking action in this market, saying this is what's happening. I'm the knowledge broker. I understand. Just like you said, green screen right here with a piece of information or a statement of fact, and saying, hey, here's exactly what's
Mhm.
happening in this real estate
Yeah.
market. It becomes very clear. Bill Harney here, you know Bill well. Always used to use that quote, the map will appear when the car is in motion. And if you remember the old
I
GPS
actually don't remember
example,
that, but that's really good.
yeah, the old GPS example is the map will appear when the car is in motion. Well, the map's starting to appear in our business very clearly.
Mhm.
And so if you're paying attention in this market, and I'll even tell you this, we could stay on for like a minute, longer in this, and I'll show
Yeah.
you a trend that's happening in our business right now relative to inventory. But the educated agent, confident in control, informed, that takes action, then wins.
Dude, you know why? I just wrote it out, by the way, because I'm
Yeah,
like,
go
oh,
ahead.
I need to write this down because you said confidence and control. Um, I think it comes from clarity. And
Yeah,
y-
yeah,
you give us so that KCM, right? And you
yeah,
give us that clarity so that we can understand what's happening. And I don't know that it's kind of cool to see that there are a lot of people on here that are already part of KCM, right? But like let's get a little bit real with each other here. I have KCM too. I should be logging in daily to read what's happening because if I'm getting a lot more clarity from the items that they're creating through their research that they take the time to build for us, won't that translate to giving clarity to the clients a lot more? And then
for sure.
that clarity creates that confidence and control that we need. So, dude, I think you guys are that clarity that we need.
Yeah. I think our team does a phenomenal job putting that together. So, shameless plug. Obviously, I believe that about what we do. I'm tempted to do this right now. I think one of the I'll give you. Can I give you just a short example of clarity?
Yes, please.
I want to just give you. I'm going to kind of deviate because I grabbed something. We're here just kind of having this conversation, and I grabbed a graphic that I want to show you. All right, so you're talking about clarity. I want to show
Yep.
you this graphic. This is listings in this country the seasonality of it going all the way back to 2017. Okay, so every year we kind of start out in January, we peak sometime around the summer, and we start to trail off towards the end of the year. That's just the number of people that say, I want to sell my house, I want to put my house on the market. It's total listing count as they
Mm-hmm.
come on online. So where are we at? See that I kind of highlighted the little yellow bar there. That's this year.
Got
Okay,
it.
up until March 2025. It's the most recent data that we have.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and you see, okay, we're kind of in the middle there. Well, what's the other thing you can notice? The red bar right there.
Mm-hmm.
That's 2020. Okay, so that's the pandemic year. Sort of, we had these 3 normal years in 17, 18, and 19 before the pandemic throws
Yeah.
everything off. And then we deplete inventory in this country, prices skyrocket. We all know that story. But listen, because I'm going to show you the trend that's just happened. If you take the red bar as sort of the dividing line in inventory, the years below it are 21, 22, 23, and 24 post-pandemic. The years above it are 17, 18, and 19, the last 3 normal years in real estate. Now, if you take, there's so many brilliant people in our business, Tristan. You follow so many of them, Mike Simonson and
Yeah.
who else with Lance Lambert, all
Lance
these people we
Lambert.
know.
Yeah.
If you look at forecasts for inventory right now, it's about 10 to 15% growth in inventory in the coming year. That's what forecasters would say. And if anybody wants that information, you can email me, David, at Keeping Current Matters, and I'll send it to you. But just take my word for it right here in this conversation. If you play this out, Tristan, and you say if inventory conservatively in this country would grow by 10% this year, this is what it looks like.
Mm.
Now, what's key about this? You got to pay attention right here. It puts us right in the range of where we ended 17, 18, and 19. It
Mm.
shows you the picture of a 5-year inventory cycle. And there are pricing implications on it. There are so many implications about our business right now that if you understand that, you can go, I totally see it. Remember, I told you the map will appear when the car is in motion, it's appearing.
Yeah.
But you have to pay attention. And listen, our team, I think, I'm going to pull this down for a second. I think we do a phenomenal job of simplifying those things. And
You do.
but that confidence that we were just talking about comes from going, I am informed, I do know what's happening, and I'm making a difference with it out in the market. And listen, even today, as you and I are together, there are a lot of people on their KCM members. I just came on to say that's what I notice in the market. That's what I notice. People that are winning today are doing that. And I think everybody's sort of ears are up going, how do I win in this market? Right? Several years ago in our business, you had to have a phone and answer it some of the time. Right? That was
Yeah.
winning.
Funny.
It's true.
Yeah. Very
So,
true,
so,
man.
so if you follow this logic out, you have to then kind of go, okay, how do I incorporate that in my business? What do I do?
Yeah.
You know,
Well, dude, I can tell you, because we've done it. So it's not just in theory. I mean, by the way, Richard asked a great question. Um,
let's see it.
how
What is it?
useful would KCM be if a solo agent were already using Real Scout and Follow Up Boss? Would this overkill or overlap? Question mark.
Well, I'm going to have dinner with Andrew Sunday night in Charleston, South Carolina. I'll be there for the Boomtown, IRE event. And we have an integration. I don't know if I'm out of school talking about this. It'll roll out with FUB
You're
next
good.
week. So I believe 1,000%, right? If you're able to connect, these insights into your CRM and into your contact strategy, that's what you have to do. I even think there's a step before that too. Right? So I agree with what Richard's saying, 1,000%, right? That's sort of the top of the pyramid.
Yeah.
But if you take the anatomy of a transaction, And let's kind of think about this. Tell me if you, so if you have a closing, right? You've generated income from it. You hit the mark. That then is preceded by a contract, either a listing agreement or a buyer brokerage agreement. It's preceded by that. You have to have that prior to a closing. Well, if you back up from there, that was preceded by a meeting, right? I don't just pop a contract over to you or a listing agreement without talking to you, which was then preceded by some type of conversation, okay, or a lead. So if I can find out how to have more conversations and engage people, and use the example that Richard mentioned of using FUB or Real Scout or whatever platform you're on,
Mm-hmm.
and that sets me up to win. It's you can sort of draw this out, I guess is my point, like a play almost.
Yeah, and really quick on that, I agree with you. I think when you look at items that you guys build out for us, besides those great graphics, I think something that is underplayed are these reports that you come up with every quarter that we can then, again, green screen on the back end and say, hey, I've got this great selling house, first time home buyer, whatever you want to do. Let's say it's this one. All right, I put that on the background and show up on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and so say simple things and showcase all of it on the back and the green screen. Say, I've got this great report. If you're buying a home this quarter, just message me and I'll send this over for free for you. It goes down through, and then I'll show you exactly for everybody in here who doesn't have it, or who you probably have this and you forget about it.
Right.
That's probably what happens. And look, you can just take this one screenshot, put it in the background. Look at this. It already
Yeah.
has this thing that Dave, you showed some the trajectory, the yellow
Yeah.
line.
Right.
This goes along well with it, right?
Mm-hmm.
All
Yeah.
of this
And you
stuff you
say
can.
something like, hey, I just created my latest buyer guide for the spring of 2025. If you
Yeah.
want it,
Oh,
you can use the
that's
mini
actually
chat.
better. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's actually really good. Yeah. Instead, say, hey, look, I just spent so much time creating this.
Right.
And
It's
look,
yours. It's
it is
yours.
yours. So
It's funny, but I'll be with Andrew from Real Scout on Sunday night over at the Unite event. He actually just sent a
nice.
message saying, "Hey, let's have dinner." But I'll bring that up. We've talked about that. Like, okay, how do we integrate FUB? We have a integration that's rolling out next week. But I'll be on the road doing that. We were talking about events, doing that. I actually go down there. Then I go over to my son. My oldest son graduates from college next Friday.
Mhm.
And I'll tell you something about. I was thinking about this the other day. He when he was in, it was probably about eighth grade. He wanted to take this young lady to the mall, and it was like a group of friends, and they wanted to go to the mall and go do whatever they were going to do, have dinner and walk around and do what kids do. And I told him, I said, listen, you can go and do that, but you've got to call her dad and say, hey, I want to take her to the mall, and here's the plan. We're going to pick her up at 6 o'clock. He couldn't drive at the time, and we're going to pick her up at 6 o'clock. We're going to go there with a group of friends. We're going to have dinner, and she'll be home by 10 o'clock, and let him know and make sure that plan's okay with him. And he said, I'm not doing it. And he's like,
Mm.
I'm not doing it, as a kid in eighth grade. And I'm like, fine, you don't have to do it. He said, I won't go then. I won't go to the gathering. And I said, well, that's okay. You don't have to go. It doesn't bother me. And after a couple of days, he sort of relented and he made the phone call. And
Okay.
he reached out and he said, okay, Mr. So-and-so, I want to, his name is Jeff Noldy, but he said, I want to take your daughter to the mall, and we're going to go with a group of friends. We're going to have dinner. We're going to pick her up at 6. She's going to be home by 10. Is that okay with you? He
Okay.
said, that's perfectly okay. Love
Nice.
that. Appreciate you calling. Now, here's what I'll tell you about that, Tristan,
Tell
because
me.
I was thinking about conversations.
Yeah.
To this day, that guy will still talk about that conversation.
Hmm.
To this day. But listen, the reason he had that outcome is he was willing to do something that was extremely hard for him
Mm,
at the time, right? You think about a kid in eighth grade who's going to call an adult, like he's like, I would rather die than do that, right? And it's true
yeah.
everywhere in our personal lives, our professional lives. If somebody calls us, we're good, right? If somebody calls me and they're like, hey, we're thinking about listing our house, I'm ready to go. It's equally harder for me to make that call. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's hard to
true.
be proactive and reach out and say consistently. And there's some reasons for that. But I had a guy tell me, a mentor of mine tell me, gosh, probably 10 years ago, he said, if things are going right in your business and you're winning, it's your fault. And I was like, all right. He's like, if things aren't going right in your business, it's your fault. And I think,
Mm,
oftentimes we take that it's your fault mentality as sort of this negative connotation, like you're a kid, like it's your fault. But if we're making those conversations and we're making time to be consistent in that, then we have a business that then reflects that. It's our fault, right?
that's very
It's a
true.
good thing. And so I think having that integration, I'll go back to what Richard said, but also having that catalyst of a conversation in today's market is no doubt critically important.
That's a very good point, man. I agree with
Yeah.
you on that.
You
I want
know,
to
I go ahead.
I want to just add one thing to those people that are wondering, well, what actually works? What should I be posting? What should I be grabbing? What should I be doing consistently over however period of time you want to
Right.
show up as a real estate agent? And I think we overcomplicate it. So I'll remind people like the most visited websites in the world. And if you're following me, you're going to get tired of hearing this all the time. It's the same. It's Google,
Hmm.
YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. Those are the top four, right? Three of those are social. And so think of how you can show up on all three of those consistently with valuable information. And I know some of you are like, well, I can't do video. I'm like, great. Static posts do so amazing. Like means pictures, right? Just
Yeah, yeah.
written word. Do so amazing on some of these platforms. And I'm going to show you a really quick hack so that if you don't know what to do, you just go to KCM and grab it. All right, let me just show you. I'm just going to grab this
Yeah, yeah.
and I'm going to just grab it, like pretend I'm going to use this one. I snapshot it, right? That's the one I'm going to use. Let me just save
Okay.
it to my screen because I'm going to go over to, you're going to see my screen. I'm going to shift over to ChatGPT. Can you see my screen, Dave? I'm on
Yep,
chat.
I can. Yep.
Perfect. I'm going to grab, let's see here. I'm going to jump over here and grab, I'm going to upload from my computer that image. There it is. It's uploading. And I'm going to say, I'm going to post it to, let's Facebook. Let's say Facebook. Create a uh, Facebook Facebook post about this image so it connects with my audience in Los Angeles. All right. So
Yep.
now, just in case you're wondering, like, hey, I can even connect Google, but I'm not going to. So connect there. It's creating it. There it is. I'm using 4.0. So it's the $20 version. I think you can also, it's the free version, I think. So
Right.
now it's creating this. Might be a little too lengthy. Not too bad. I can ask it to summarize it, but I can literally copy paste this or edit, which I would recommend edit, right? But check this out. I'm going to use that specific graphic that KCM provided for me. And I can do this daily. You're like, I don't know what to post. Well, now you don't have to think about it. You have
Right.
exactly what to post. And
Yeah. No,
this
I hear you.
stuff right here gets shared. Like I've had your graphics that I don't do much work on get shared over 100 times. And what does that do for me if I do this consistently? It creates that presence that I need as a real estate agent,
Well,
right?
yeah, I think all day long, and Tristan, you've done a phenomenal job of that, of sort of leading the way. And how do you get that out well? I think there are two things that I would bring up. One, there are questions like that. Now, you pulled the graphic of what is being forecasted for home prices in this country. The truth is, consumers right now in our business may not come up to you, Tristan, and go, "Hey, what do you think about home prices?" It's a question in their mind, but they may not ever ask it. And so I can actually answer questions that are relevant to people through a post like that. And I would even offer stay on message. So let's go back again. I keep going back to thinking about what Richard said. If I have a post out there, I've integrated and I have an email that I sent to my database, and I pick up the phone and I talk to a few people about, hey, one of the questions that I'm getting most often is what's happening with home prices. So I'll guarantee you want people to engage. You start talking
Mm,
about home prices, you'll get some engagement. Everybody has an opinion
yeah.
about but oftentimes the reality is we don't do that because we feel like we don't have a good reason to reach out. You know what I mean? I don't know what to say. I mean, I could call you, Tristan. You and I have a personal relationship. I can say, hey, I was thinking about you and I'm just checking in. But in our business, that's not a good enough reason to
Mm-mm.
engage with somebody. And so we go, well, I don't really have anything to say to Tristan today. And so that doesn't happen. And oh, by the way, you turn into one of the 92% of people that are like, you know what? I didn't think of David when I went to sell my home. I didn't think of that. I was looking for, hey, how do I sell this for the quickest amount of time, for the most amount of money, with the least amount of hassles? And I chose so and so. And I think even if you take it even a step further, most of us in our business do not want to fall in the trap of stereotypical agents that might feel like they have commission breath or trying to
Mm.
convince somebody to do something. That's the old, like, hey, it's always a great time to buy a home. It's always a great time to sell a home. And they think, well, you'd say that because you're in the business,
Yeah.
right? You say that because you're trying to sell a house to somebody
Yeah.
versus, hey, I always say this, and I'm here in Richmond, Virginia, in our office, and we have a wall that says we believe every family should feel confident whether buying or selling a home. That's why we exist,
Mm.
to give you the things you need to post, to send an email, to have a conversation. And I think that conversation is probably one of the things that in this market is the hardest thing to do, because nobody wants to have a conversation and sound like they don't know what they're talking about or get asked a question that they can't answer.
Mm. That's true, man. That's
That's the
very true.
truth, and I'll tell you, I was talking about going to events. Interesting thing, and I think this is true in every one of our lives. If you were to ask me, even with KCM content, and you just grabbed a screenshot off of what we were talking, is most people in our business will spend more time trying to make that post look like themselves. Meaning, does it
Mm.
have my color? Does it have my brand? And does it look
Mm.
like me?
Mm.
And that,
Mm.
versus being consistent.
That's
And
very
that's
true.
not a call out on anybody. I mean, I'll sign up for it first, and you're probably right behind me, Tristan. Consistency in our lives, eating what we need to eat, working out, you name it, right? We all struggle with that. None of us are
Mm.
perfect.
Mhm.
But if you had a system to consistently reach out, post, send an email, you go, okay, I could diagram this up. And our team's been working on this new product I'll tell you about, but of that's the playbook in our business right now. You want to run plays that work. That's how you do it. Angela just said, "Ha, that's me." So it's every one of us.
All of
That's
us
the
in something. Yeah.
It's every one of us in that area. And so when you start to recognize it, it then becomes clear. It becomes clear, and okay, that's it. And I can make a difference right now. In my message, and I'll tell you about that. What our team's been working on here in a minute. But my message today is: if you're listening to this, if you're a KCM member, if you're not a KCM member, you don't have to go it alone. You don't have to do that alone. You can have a source for insights. And my argument would be, You have to have it in our business today. You can determine whether that's KCM or not, but you have to not having the source is no longer sort of an option, in our business.
Very true.
Yeah.
Very true, man. I love
Yeah. Yeah.
this. All
Yeah.
right, questions, comments, concerns, additions. Are you inspired to show up better with the content that you already have in front of you?
So let me tell you this. The So let me tell you what our team's been working on, because
Tell me.
this is where it gets really interesting. So a couple of months ago, we started looking at, we've been really good for the past 17 years, giving people, this is what's happening in the market, even with KCM Local, here's what's happening in your local market, here are guides and everything that we have. But the gap became, how do I talk about this and how do I have a conversation? And so
Mm,
we built a tool called KCM Playbooks. It launches next week, and I'm gonna give it to everybody on the call here in just a second. But it gives you exactly what to say in the market right now. Engage somebody over a text, an email, a phone call, a video.
mm,
Any type of communication you have gives you a reason to reach out. Remember, it was like, well, I don't want to call and say I'm just checking in. I need a reason to reach out. And it gives you that spark of more than just, something that, I'm just saying something. And so in that system, we pulled out all of the objections and built that for you. We're like, all right, it's right here. I can hop right in, and I can then, oh, by the way, let's go back to what we said. I can be consistent in what I do. There are a lot of features in KCM that you can kind of set and forget, posting and things like that. But if you were to spend, my estimation would be kind of like what you said. If you spend an hour a week kind of going, this is what I'm going to post, schedule my post. This is what I'm going to say. These are the emails I'm going to send. You could button it all up in that moment. And in the KCM playbooks, I know your team has a link that they can post maybe in the chat where
yep.
folks can get one of those playbooks. Well, we're going to give you today a free playbook where you can use it in our business right now and get folks out there. And I want to read the comment that's in there. I don't know if you read it. It looked like you were. If it's something that that we want to respond to.
Yeah, definitely, man. And yeah, there's a link right there. We just posted it up. I'll repost it because now we have got some questions. Let me grab it. Uh, there it is. We
Yep,
got it.
perfect.
Angela says the problem I have is, do I tell people on social media my value as a realtor and community market leader? How do I stand over all the agents? Angela, that is a very common question. Actually, right before this, we had a social media session on this, and that was one question that came up. And here's the answer every single time. And it's easy to forget because we're watching everybody else do their thing, and we're like, man, I wish I could do that. How come this person has this many followers? How does this person get so many? The answer is you are the differentiating factor. The opinion you have is that differentiating factor. You just have to show up enough and people will listen. People tune in to Dave, right? Not because he's absolutely crazy, amazing, and he's super great at what he does, which by the way, he is. But it's because they actually want to listen. Well, what does Dave think about the market? He's showing up enough consistently that people are now following and saying, yeah, I wonder what Dave has to say about the market. And
Right.
the same thing on whatever it is that you show up with. And Angela, it's never about how you want to show up. It's all about how you need to show up for your audience. Like, what are they
Right.
most concerned about? And it's so
Right.
easy because you go to CNN, Dave, they outline the trends for you. It's like, what
For
are they?
sure. My question would be this, and tell me what you think about this, Tristan, because you're much more of the social expert than I am. I would go back and look at my feed and answer this question. Would I consider myself the expert based on what I see
Hmm.
in my?
Well, I can tell you for most real estate agents, the answer is no. The answer is I would consider most real estate agents to be posting about listings. And I'm not sure I understand that whole strategy, right? Because that's all I see.
Right.
versus versus if I go, and at this point we've got a lot of people on here that have KCM. If I go to the back end of KCM and consistently give my opinion on those pieces, now you go back 60 days and you're like, oh yeah, this guy's a pro. This
Yeah. Yeah.
this lady's amazing. She's just described the current world we're at and where we're heading. And
Yeah.
this is why I love that playbook link. By the way, everyone click on it, trykcm.com/LCA. That's why I love the playbook. And on top, you didn't bring this one up, man, but I'm going to bring it up for you. You have this thing at KCM that I was looking at that I love for those of you that want to create longer form video. It's called the deep dive, the market
Right.
updates.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you go into any part of the deep dive, it's an example video of how you should use all of these slides that they give you right here. In essence, it's telling you, hey, this is how you make your 15, 20-minute YouTube video, everybody.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
That's, and you just listen to this and then give your take and your opinion on it using their slides that they've made for you, and you're done. Like you could
Yeah.
download them right here. And if you're like, that's too complicated, then you know what? Download them, upload them to ChatGPT, and have ChatGPT create a whole outline of a YouTube video for 15 minutes. And it's the same
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I would offer a challenge today. And I know we're getting towards the top of the hour. I want to respect
Yeah.
everybody's time. We have a lot of KCM members on there. If you want to get playbooks, and I don't know which level of access they have of KCM, so I can't answer all those questions directly. But if you want to email me, David at Keeping Current Matters, we'll get that figured out for you. But if you click that link, you get a playbook. We're going to give you one. And we refresh these playbooks every 2 weeks. Okay, for conversations, for text, for videos, for emails, everything. So you consistently have something. Now, here's the trick. Here would be my sort of coaching is in this market. Commit to doing that for the next 90 days.
Mm.
Commit to it. Right? It's like committing to a workout plan or committing to a diet plan, whatever it is, make the commitment. And my offer to you would be you will see a noticeable difference in your business. I will, if you will do those actions and do it, I'll guarantee it. You know, a lot of people are like, we started off the call and you're like, hey, I'm a KCM member. I'm not in there as much as I need to be. Right? That is the common thing that happens.
Oh,
But
yeah.
if I'll dedicate an hour, I'll dedicate a portion of my week to go, okay, I'm going to do that. I'm going to commit to it for 90 days. You will see, I'll guarantee you, you'll see a difference in your business. You'll see a difference in how you're engaging with people, even the conversations that you're having, right? How does every transaction go? You start with a transaction with somebody, and then all of a sudden you get a call and they're like, you know what? I was talking to so-and-so and they're thinking about selling their home. Or I was talking to my niece or nephew or aunt, whatever it is, and they're thinking about doing something. When we're top of mind and we have that proximity, we're delivering the right information, good
Mhm.
things happen. You know the old saying, Tristan, the harder I work, the luckier I get. And so
Yeah,
I
that's
think that
very true.
that is true in our business today.
That's very true, man. And I was taking a look at, for those of you that are, because I got your questions, where do I find the playbook if you already have access to it? Go to KCM, mykcm.com. It's in the dashboard. You click dashboard, and it's at the very top. They've highlighted it for you so you can see it. Here's the power of equity. They give you the steps, 5 steps, kind of warming it up, right? And then it's like the final ones, like the text or the DM. You could do it on social too. But what this looks like, the warm up email outlines it for you, right? You could just copy the text there. And then the social graphic, which by the way gives you everything, you just post it up. I would challenge you to also post this as a story. Sometimes
Yep.
posting as a story gives you more views. And then call to action through follow-up call or voicemail if you want to do that. And then you just keep on going through the whole process. Another social post up here too. But that's what it looks like. So people can take a look at the playbook. And I think um, I feel like sometimes you make it so easy that we get lost in the ease, man. I don't understand sometimes. But
Yeah.
it's so damn easy right now. So I would say pick up Dave's challenge and just do it for the next 90 days. Like, what is the worst that can happen if I decide to show up either posting a graphic because Dave, today I didn't feel like doing a video, right?
Yeah.
Posting a graphic, and then the next day, I'll do a video, right? And then the third day, I'm like, you know what? Fine, I'll reach out to a few of my past clients. And then the fourth day, okay, fine, I'll post up a post. I really wasn't feeling like doing another video. Then the fifth day, I'm like, okay, I'll do a video, right? That's what consistency looks like. Just showing up in some way with the content that you already have here. And if you don't have it, sign up. But this
Yeah.
is what it looks like.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, I think I think there are a couple things about that. One, consistency wins. I mean, that's very, very clear in what we do. But also, I think the Winston Churchill said this back in the early 1900s. He was speaking at Harvard University. He said the price of greatness is responsibility. So if you want to
Mm,
be great in this market, the price of greatness is responsibility. You're now responsible for what you know. You can choose not to take action. That is for sure. I've done it many, many times myself, right? But the price of greatness in today's world, in the real estate market, in the war for conversations. Because listen, if you don't have a conversation and reach out to somebody, don't worry about it. Somebody else will. They will become a Zillow lead, kind of to your point. And that's the world that we live in. And I think being able to understand that and say, okay, for the next 90 days, I'm going to commit to being what I would call the knowledge broker, right? To be the one in my community that says, hey, here's what's important. Here's what I'm talking to my people about. I want to be remembered as the one who is the expert in this market because I believe it's the market that we're in. And folks want to know that.
dude, I love this, bro. I love this. And one thing that I'm going to start doing more of, because I watched Lance Lambert, who you and I know,
Yeah, yeah.
build a brand on mainly on X of 100,000 followers over, and it takes time, guys. It takes time.
Yeah, yeah.
Over, I would say 3 years, over 3 years, just on posting graphics and
Mhm.
explaining them, never showing up on video. In fact, he barely does.
Right, right,
Guys,
right.
this is just graphics and explaining them. 100,000 followers. And those followers, because I know Lance well, they're people that are following him and now paying, right? Now think of you and your audience. Who's
For
your
sure.
audience? They're going
Yeah,
to come to you and you're going to be that first person. Going back to that whole Zillow thing, right? How do we beat Zillow? How do we beat anybody that's trying to encroach in our space? Well, they can't beat us locally, right? Give them that local flavor. This is why I put
yeah,
Los Angeles on the graphic that KCM provided me. Now it has my local flavor on it.
yeah.
Anyway, Dave,
I think there's an old saying, we all of us have heard it, a picture's worth 1,000 words. And that's how Lance built that. Lance is brilliant. I was with him in New York City at the end of last year. And he's done a phenomenal job with that, right? And does a really, really good job. But if
yeah.
we just pay attention to that, and listen, here's the other thing. I said it before, you don't have to go alone. You don't have, we live in a world today where you don't have to recreate the wheel, so to speak.
No.
You don't have to do it. I mean, you can, but you don't have to.
No,
You know,
man.
you
Listen,
can.
I'm just gonna use your graphics, put my name on it next to it too. It's like it's from me too. It's like,
Right.
hey, it's
Yeah.
amazing what you've done.
I'll tell everybody right now, use KCM stuff and say it's from you. Say, I was studying the market and here's what I found out. I
Yeah.
look at 22 people that the graphic that you pulled is 22 forecasters that say this is what's going to happen with the housing market. Just by saying that, Tristan, people are like, oh my gosh, that's a lot, right? That's how I show up every day. So
That's how we all
grateful for you
show.
leading the way. Thank you for that, for the whole lab coat agent community, and look forward to doing more together. And it's good to see you. I'm excited about this.
Yeah, dude, it's great to see you. Have fun at the Boomtown event.
I'll be down in Charleston. Yeah, if anybody else is there, say hello, and I look forward to being down there.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks,
All
David.
right, take care.
Bye, everyone.